What's good, YouTube? Welcome back to another episode of Bird's Eye View. Hope everybody doing good and been enjoying their weekend, and I hope everybody trying to stay sane through these crazy times. I look a little rough this week, but nonetheless, the show must go on. I'm gonna try not to keep y'all too long this week, so let's just jump straight into the disclaimer. This information is to be used for informational and educational purposes only. These are not formal investment recommendations. These are just my opinions on what I see in the market and what I'm doing with my own money. Please do your own research and only make investment decisions based on your own personal circumstances. So without further ado, let's jump into it. Now that we're back on schedule, let's do a quick recap of what happened in the markets last week. The market had a pretty good run up last week, but I think it's a little bit premature. The S&P 500 rose nearly 6% last week. The NASDAQ rose 7.6% last week. And the reason is because Trump came out and softened his stance on tariffs against China. He did an interview saying that the tariffs that are currently on China will not be nearly as high as they have been and that they just won't be zero. He even came out and said that Trump and his team are in active negotiations with the Chinese government so that they are confident that a deal can be reached soon. So that gave the market a little bit of euphoria. However, the volume was still low, meaning that even though the prices were going up, there weren't a lot of people buying shares. And the reason is because later the Chinese government came out and said that they have had no talks with Trump at all and no communication, and that Trump saying so is false and is fake news. They even went as far as killing Trump in the Chinese media last week. In fact, hashtag Trump caved, as in he caved in, was the #2 most used hashtag on Chinese media last week. Chinese news networks were killing Trump on saying that nothing that comes out his mouth is credible, that you can't believe anything he says, that his own people don't even support him. So China is thugging this thing out. They told the U.S., they say, if you want to have talks, you want to have negotiations, remove all tariffs that are currently on China. And if you don't, we just going to have to wait and see. So this will basically be a battle of attrition to see who can survive the most pain and who can survive the longest. Like I said in previous videos, the U.S. and China have their own economic issues. China's economic system revolves around creating an excess of goods and selling those goods to other countries, which means other countries pay for the goods that they create because they can make them for cheap. And then vice versa, the U.S.'s economic system is based around importing goods but spending money because we have such an excess of capital. Our capital markets are strong. Foreign countries spend their money and put it into the U.S. markets. So we have an excess cash that we then spend on China's goods. So now China's problem is we have all these goods, but the money from the U.S. is stopping, and vice versa. The U.S. has a problem because we have all this money, but the goods from China are stopping, and we get most of our goods from China. So it's just a matter of who can survive the longest, who can withstand the most pain. And China has shown that they're not willing to fold right now. And Trump coming back and saying tariffs won't be as high as they have been, shows that he's realizing that he might have bit off a little bit more than he could chew. And if you remember in my last episode, I said that the bond markets are very telling of how foreign countries feel about the American government. And because of that move in the bond markets, Trump went out and said, and I quote, he paused the tariffs in part because he watched the bond markets and people were getting a little queasy. He saw how these foreign countries felt about what he's been saying about tariffs, and it spooked him. And he said, you know what, let me chill a little bit. People in his corner were telling him that you might have to back off a little bit, that we might have to be a little bit more conservative in our stance. And he pulled back tariffs and said, oh, actually, they're not going to be as high as they are now. So he might have bit off a little bit more than he can chew, but for right now, we're just going to have to wait and see. As far as this relates to stocks, I don't think this recent run up in stocks will last. I think we haven't really felt the pain that'll be caused by these tariffs. There have been talks about supply chain constraints. In fact, the CEOs of Walmart, Target, and Home Depot have had conversations with Trump last week telling him that if this tariff war continues, that there could be a point where shelves are empty because they've been front loading on goods and buying everything up so that they could try to avoid the price increases. But if it continues, then there may not be as many goods left because everybody has been stacking up and buying them in excess, which means that it'll take some time for the suppliers to start getting back those orders going. So there could be more buying opportunities coming soon. Just keep watching the market. And I think just be wary that another downturn might come soon. Let's talk about some earnings. This is a big week for earnings. This is one of them ones. We got a lot of heavy hitters reporting this week. A lot of the Mag 7 will be reporting, so this is definitely a week that you should be paying attention and listening in. If you're not familiar with what the Magnificent 7 is, For the past few years, the gains in the S&P 500 have been led by 7 stocks. Those 7 stocks are Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, Google, Amazon, Meta, and Tesla. So when these are the 7 largest companies in the world by market cap. So when they report earnings, you should definitely listen. On Tuesday, we have Visa and PayPal, 2 payment networks that are very critical to the American economy. Visa is an amazing stock. I might have to go more in depth about Visa next week, but it is a stock that I have on my watch list. So pay attention to that. They'll give you some good info into consumer spending. Wednesday, we have Microsoft, Meta, and Robinhood. So Microsoft and Meta and the Magnificent Seven. Meta is one of my stock picks that I called out. Meta is going through some things right now. They have an antitrust lawsuit going on right now where the Department of Justice is trying to say that they have a monopoly over social media. So that's something to be conscious about. And we also have Robinhood. Even though I don't particularly like Robinhood as a broker, I do like them as a stock. It's a very strong company. They have included some very great features for investors recently and traders especially. So I think it'll be interesting to hear what they have to say. Thursday is another big day. We have Eli Lilly, Amazon, and Apple. Eli Lilly is a major pharmaceutical company. They are the creator of Zepbound, the GLP-1 drug, and I think they have one more. They created the 2nd most used and the 4th most used GLP-1 drug. Their drugs are only behind Ozempic. So, and they also just came out with a study that said that they have a pill version of Zepbound, and their stock shot up last week. I think it was up like 13% in a single day. And I think it ended the week total up like 14%, something like that. So Eli Lilly is also on my watch list. Great stock. And then we have Amazon and Apple. So definitely pay attention to those. And these are the earnings that you should be paying attention to this week. Let's talk brokerage accounts. Last week, I gave some brokerages that would be great for new investors looking to open their first account. However, there are different types of accounts that you can open, and there are 3 main types. The first being a 401k, which is an employer-sponsored retirement plan. That means that your employer controls the plan provider, and they control the type of investments that you can make. So you don't have much flexibility in what your money is invested into in a 401k. The money is pulled directly from your paycheck and it's not taxed until you withdraw it. So any contribution to your 401k and any investments in that account are not taxed until you withdraw that money. You cannot withdraw money from a 401k until you are at least 59 and a half years old. If you withdraw any money from your 401k before you are 59 and a half years old, you will be subject to a 10% penalty. So please keep that in mind. That is very important. The good thing about a 401k is you have something called employer matching, which means that your employer or your job will match a certain percentage of your contributions every year. Typically, this is around 3 to 4%. So if you're young and you're in your 20s, I recommend contributing at least that employer match. So if that's 4%, contribute 4% of your earnings into your 401k, because employer matching is basically free money. Your 401k also has a higher contribution limit. You can contribute up to $23,000 into your 401k per year. Next, we have a Roth IRA, which is one of the most powerful financial tools out there. A Roth IRA is an individual retirement account. And the Roth IRA is so powerful that they had to limit how much you can contribute to that account per year drastically compared to a 401k. Now, with the Roth IRA, it's not taken directly from your paycheck like a 401k. After you get your paycheck and after that money is taxed, you can then move that money into a Roth IRA yourself, and that account is managed by you and you only. Or you can have a financial advisor manage it for you. You can only contribute up to $7,000 to your Roth IRA per year. And the reason for that is because the money is taxed before you put it in. When you start withdrawing that money at retirement, which again is at 59 and a half, that money that you withdraw will be tax free. So as your money accrues in value, once you start taking it out, you don't have to pay any taxes, which is extremely powerful. The other great thing about a Roth IRA is you can withdraw the contributions you make into that account at any time. However, not your gains. So as I said, you can contribute up to $7,000 annually into your Roth IRA. You can access that money at any given time, but the money that you make from those investments, all the gains that you have on top of your contributions, cannot be touched, or you will be subject to a 10% penalty like I mentioned before. So a Roth IRA is extremely powerful. If you're in your 20s and you're young, this should be your primary retirement vehicle. You should be maxing out your Roth IRA and contributing that $7,000. and having your employer matching with your 401k. And then as you get older and you enter your 30s, you can start increasing your contributions to your 401k. Lastly, we have a taxable brokerage account. A taxable brokerage account is better suited for shorter to midterm goals like 5 to 10 years. You can make unlimited contributions to a taxable brokerage account, and you can access that money at any given time. Unlike a 401k, your investments are not tax deferred, so you will have to pay taxes on any gains that you make within a given year. However, you aren't taxed on your investments with a taxable brokerage account until you sell. And if you hold those investments for at least a year, you only have to pay long-term capital gains tax, which is much lower than your ordinary income tax. Another great benefit of taxable brokerage accounts is if you lose money on an investment, that money can then be used to offset future long-term gains or your ordinary income on your next year's tax return. So just as an example, if you make $80,000 a year and you have an investment that lost $2,000, you can sell that investment for a loss, and on your next year's tax return, after you take out your standard deduction for your ordinary income, you can then reduce your taxable income even further by that $2,000, which will increase your odds of getting a refund, which means that even though you lost money on the investment, you can still get some of that money back to then put back into your investment account. So investing is a very powerful tool. With a taxable brokerage account, if you're looking to save for a house, for a car, or you're looking to start a business, this is much better than a regular savings account, because not only will your account grow much faster, but you'll also be able to offset some losses by getting back a tax return. As we wrap up this video, I want to talk about some investor best practices. There are a set of principles that all successful investors follow. So I've picked 5 principles that are essential for all new investors to follow and be successful. The first is to have a contrarian mindset, which basically means to do the opposite of what everyone else is doing. This is best explained by a quote that I love from Warren Buffett, who's widely regarded as one of the most successful investors of all time. He said to be fearful when others are greedy and be greedy when others are fearful. Usually when you see stocks have a big run up, everybody tries to start rushing in because they have FOMO or fear of missing out, and they usually invest at all-time highs, which is a big mistake. Whenever you see stocks hit record highs, it will always come back down at some point to a degree. So it's better to wait until that happens before you start putting money in. And then vice versa, when people see a big drop in stocks, they're scared to put money in because the metaphor that's widely used in investing is they don't want to catch a falling knife. But it's better to invest after a big downturn, because the additional losses you could have after such a big downturn are far outweighed by the potential gains you could have by investing at such a good price. So have a contrarian mindset. Number 2 is to hold your investments for the long term. A big mistake that new investors make is they see that they made a little money. You might have made a couple hundred or even a couple $1,000s, and then you sell your investments, but you're shooting yourself in the foot because you don't give compound interest time to take effect. When you hold your investment for the long term, you give your money time to grow, but you also give your money time to recover if there is a downturn. Number 3, invest in companies that are essential to the world's survival and its growth. You don't want to invest in the next trendy stock that just shoots up a couple percent in a certain amount of time. You want to invest in strong companies that won't go out of business even if there is an economic downturn. Think about what's happening right now. Large companies that are very successful are not going to be going out of business. Amazon is not going out of business. Walmart is not going out of business. Microsoft is not going out of business, because these are huge companies that are essential to the American way of life. Invest in strong companies so that even if there is a downturn, you know that they're going to bounce back eventually. Number 4 is exercise proper risk management. And this is best explained by 2 quotes. One, which is also by Warren Buffett: never test the depth of the river with both feet. And another is by Stan Druckenmiller, who's a very successful investor and trader. He said, if you're going to concentrate, it's better to have 5 buckets to play in instead of 1. So that basically means that you should have a diversified portfolio. You should never put all your money into one stock or even one sector. You should have about 5 to 10 stocks in your portfolio, and you can have a little bit of money in tech, a little bit of money in index funds, a little bit of money in healthcare. That way, if one sector doesn't do good, the other sectors can kind of balance it out a little bit. And lastly, stay informed. To really stay informed as an investor, you're going to have to go beyond your typical local news network. Wall Street Journal is great. I read the Wall Street Journal every single day. Barron's Magazine is another good one. I read Barron's Magazine every single day. If you can read these for at least 30 minutes a day, you'll be much more informed than the average American. They also have a bundle with these. I believe you get the Wall Street Journal, Barron's Magazine, and another magazine called Market Watch. And it's only $4 a month for your first year. And if you're currently a student, you get the entire bundle for free with a student email address. So you should definitely be taking advantage of those. As far as news networks go, Bloomberg is great. Bloomberg is an international financial news network. They give a lot of great insight, not just from an American perspective, but also from an international perspective from other companies. So it's great to see a point of view outside of what we're used to, which is essential for being an investor. And CNBC is another great news network. These two give you more information than you might see on like an ABC or like a Fox, which can have very biased opinions. So it's better to have unbiased, mostly unbiased opinions on your news networks. And these are great picks to get started. That wraps up another video. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. If you learned something new today, please drop a like. It helps me grow the channel. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit that bell so you never miss a video. If you have any questions about anything I covered in this video or just general questions about the stock market, please drop them in the comments below or be sure to DM me on Instagram at High Flyer Network. I hope you guys have an amazing week. Stay informed, spread some love, and I'm going to see y'all at the top. I'm going to catch y'all next time, y'all. Peace.